Hey everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. My name is Tom Marks, Associate Editor here at PC Gamer, and your host, as always. Joining me this week, we have two real-live humans in the building for the first time.
That's a stretch.
And oh, wow, man, getting dark already.
Dark
Mr.
soul.
James Davenport, the gloomy glum of
Yeah.
PC Gamer.
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah, despite all my, all appearances, I'm always a happy lad.
That's good.
Yeah.
Also joining us today is Tim Clark, Global Editor-in-Chief. Tim, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks, Tom. Average, 7 out of 10, I would say. Oh, 7 out of 10 is not average, 6 out of 10. Uh-oh. 5? I don't know.
Yeah,
Scoring percentages.
You're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
okay. I think okay is about a 6. Then.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be like what, with significant flaws? That feels about right. Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, we are starting this show out on an upbeat note, as we usually do. But we've got a good show for you today, filled with happy things and joy and cheer and Dark Souls. So not a happy thing, but we're going to be talking about Dark Souls 3's Ringed City DLC. Then we're also going to be talking about Destiny 2, which we had a discussion of in Rumor last week.
Yeah.
How heavily did you rumor it, Tom?
So I was moderately skeptical, but I said this last week that I had faith that it would come.
Why were you skeptical? I told you it was going to be on PC.
Well, right, but I had
listen to
faith
the guy.
through you. Like, that's what I said, is I was like, because Tim was so confident, I was confident.
Yeah.
Evan was
Okay.
That
dead
told me.
set. Yeah? Well, so it's finally confirmed. It was officially announced last week, but it is finally confirmed that Destiny 2 is coming to PC. So we're going to dig into that because, Tim, how many hours of Destiny 1 have you played?
I don't know if I'm comfortable saying, Tom.
Okay, that's fair. That's telling.
I'll ask chat what is the most number of hours they've spent on any one game. See what the highest number is, and I'll tell you whether mine is higher or lower than that.
All right, well, you guys can drop those numbers in chat, tag us with @PCGamer at that, and I'll take a look. We're also going to be talking about just some latest news that's been going on recently. It's been a busy kind of 5 days or so.
Yeah.
And we're also going to be talking about what we've been playing lately, and then, of course, take your questions from Twitch chat. We've got Jellysickle 101 right away with 2,000 hours into some game.
Yeah, it's more than that.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
That's close, though. It's close.
There you go. So, Tim likes Destiny 1, now going to be able to actually talk about Destiny 2.
Yeah, it was more my sort of secret shame. Like when I wrote about it, I wrote about it on the site like a while ago. I can't even remember why, and I somehow mentioned how long I'd spent on it, and people were pretty angry about that. They felt like I shouldn't have been dedicating that amount of my time to a non-PC
Only
game.
PC games.
Yeah.
No.
But now we see that I was just preparing. And
Yeah.
I'll be the foremost PC Destiny expert. So
Hit the
play
ground
the
running.
long game, kids. Play the long game.
Hit the ground raiding.
So, wow. Will says that he has 2,500 hours in PlanetSide. I think that's PlanetSide 2, right? Yeah.
Well,
and
I respect that sort of sickness, Will. Congratulations.
But
Slightly less than that.
Crazy
Slightly
Canuck,
less than that.
12,000 hours in World of Warcraft.
Oh,
So,
good God.
There you
He's
go.
a hero to me.
I mean, well, do the math. How long has Destiny been out?
3 years?
3 years. World of Warcraft's got like what, 10 now?
He might not have been playing since vanilla. He might have bought that like at Christmas.
That's true. But you know,
12,000 hours
I don't know
since
if-
the
I don't know if
holidays.
the math's quite add up, but
Yeah.
yeah, probably not.
Well, let's start with some other latest news, though, what's been going on, because it has been busy. The first thing I want to call out is we've partnered with GOG, right, to do a GOG PC Gamer kind of recommended sale. So that's going on right now. I wanted to call out because it's pretty cool. We got to pick specific games on GOG that we wanted to have discounted for y'all, and now those are discounted. So you can find that over at PCGamer.com or at GOG.com, as it might imply. There's,
What games did we pick on?
Soma, Her Story, Spelunky. What?
V.
That one.
That's one of my favorite games of all time. Go get it.
Titan Souls, another good one. Kentucky Route Zero, Hotline Miami, FTL, Samorost 3,
I mean,
Pathologic
Good
Classic.
stuff.
These are all literally good games.
Yeah, they are. Psychonauts, Jotun, Tomb Raiders 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Flame in the Flood, 80 Days. There's more. I will not list them all because it's a lot. But
Good job, Tom Senior, picking good games.
yeah, they picked out some great games, so you guys can go find that. Otherwise, let's see. Let's start out with some of the more hot, spicy recent news, which is the Mass Effect Andromeda is getting an update tomorrow.
The apology update.
It's like No Man's Sky's like Pathfinder update. This is the apology update.
I mean, it's arrived quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what actually does it entail? I mean, is it?
So they listed this big thing of notes that they said it was one of those ambiguous patch notes where it's not like specifics, but it's here's what we want to do, and they said. Things
I don't know how specific you can be about fixing fish eyeballs.
Yeah. So that was one of the things, though. They said the eyeballs are going to look more natural.
Do they just check the blink box like they blink now? Like
Imagine that you get that you're the animator and you get like that as a note in your inbox on Monday.
God.
Like make eyeballs better.
Okay.
Yep.
There's also things like improving lip syncing and facial acting during conversations, whatever the heck that means. So, like, that's something that people have wanted, but we don't necessarily know what that'll actually look like.
I mean, I know what it means, but it seems like a hell of a job given how much voice acting there is in it.
And given it's been 2 weeks.
There was a really interesting post that we covered as news by Jonathan Cooper, who's was an animator, I think, at Naughty Dog, and he talked about some of the systems they use for generating animation. I can't remember the exact specifics of it, but he was kind of describing like how a lot of these problems can sort of be due to the kind of the pipeline, the workflow of how they put these things together, and different things being in different sort of stages of detail and completion at different points. And it's an interesting read to kind of get, because it's very hard to obviously unpick, like, you just look at a goofy looking conversation and go, well, duh, didn't anyone see this? And
he sort of like deduced, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, having read it a week ago, that based on his experience and based on what the animations look like now, that they intended to go in and sort of touch them up by hand.
Do another pass on some of them.
But I think just it was a matter of time, and they had to leave it. So
I mean, you feel like that would apply to quite a few of the things in Mass Effect that have got people's jimmies rustled. If you look at, because haven't they talked about fixing the flyby stuff, the planetary animation flyby?
Yeah, you can skip the animations between planets now. For
I don't know if I want
scanning.
to skip it. I just want it to be quicker, like 10 times as quick.
Well, all or nothing, Tim. You get the full 1 minute treatment, or
skip or bust.
Yeah,
nothing at all.
But that is like they are addressing issues that people have been saying. But as Tyler put it, like, he just beat the game, and like now these issues are coming. So
yeah, but see, now I feel rewarded for getting bored after like 8 hours or whatever it was. Now I'm going to come back to a whole new, maybe 8% better game.
Oh boy,
And something that was specifically the interesting thing I thought was they released this statement yesterday that said this patch is coming Thursday, and then in the patch notes they were like, we're going to fix this one character that the community was like specifically angry about, named Hanley Abrams, and then again today they posted another thing specifically apologizing for that character's dialogue.
It was a text image apology.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is like, that seems like, I mean, for those of you who don't know, the character is transgender in the game, and the dialogue is not well written. Let's just put it that way. It's heavy-handed and it's stupid, and like that's not a thing unique to that character specifically, because all the dialogue in that game is heavy-handed, but like people took offense to it, as they are right to do, and it's interesting to see Mass Effect BioWare specifically say, we're fixing this character, and then the next day be like, seriously, we're sorry about this.
I think it's fair enough if they felt like it was something they wanted to get ahead of, get out in front of quickly, then that's they're well within their rights to do that. I think before we went on this show, Bo from the hardware team joked that 3 straight dudes are probably not the best ones to be weighing in
definitely
sensibly on this, and he's probably right. Like, I'm not sure.
Absolutely. I think what we can say though is just like all of the characters suffer from how they explain their origin story, and the big thing here is just this person, you meet them for the first time, they basically come out and say, I'm trans and here's my like terrible origin story.
Like it's 5 seconds into the discussion. But so here's what I would say, not in their defense, but what I think is, so I think that problem, like you're saying, James, is systemic across the whole game. When you meet Suvi, the
pilot,
the sciencey pilot lady, I don't know. She's like, within 10 seconds of you talking to her, she goes, I'm a scientist, but I also believe in God. Do you believe in God? And you're like, what? Who are you?
It's absolutely just part of the,
Like, that's not how people interact.
No, period.
So there's still tons of news, so I do want to keep jumping
Yeah, let's
along.
do it. Let's go.
Take us out of Controversy Corner, Tom.
I will guide you. Follow me. No. So another thing that I wanted to touch on is Valve. This is like really small news, or it's potentially big news that is small right now. Valve has said that they are revamping the way that they are going to recommend games to people. They're starting this thing called Steam Explorers, where you can opt in to basically like review bad games or like review small games or something like that. And like they haven't like all the information we have like secondhand through like a Total Biscuit video, and so we're just like not entirely sure what that entails. But they'll get like one free refund per week, and they can like go in and play games that might be crappy, and then say, yeah, this shouldn't be showing up on the Steam store, or promote it.
But they're encouraged to. Can only certain games be explored? Like, could you Steam explore the new Total War and then go, this is a fake game? I saw the phrase "fake games" being tossed around, which I didn't.
Is this? I think I actually saw that too, but like quoted from the information surrounding Steam Explorers, and I don't know who said it, but that's a bad.
I don't like
Let's not use that phrase.
Yeah, they don't, and the answer is we don't know yet. Like, I think there's a lot of specifics coming out, but stuff is happening, and I think they're trying to say what's coming after Greenlight, because they are going to kill Greenlight. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't send flowers.
The last bit of news I wanted to talk about, which we can use to actually maybe transition into now playing, James's nap time. No. Hearthstone. Hearthstone is getting a new expansion tomorrow. Tim, you're still on the Hearthstone kick?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was playing it in a taxi cab yesterday. No, the day before.
Are you looking forward to this? Are you?
Yeah, very
jazzed?
much so. They've been doing. I'll be quick, James. Stop making that face.
I'm just like
Jesus.
letting the card.
Let me be. Let me have my game.
Okay.
They've been doing like daily login rewards of gold and dust, and yesterday they gave the first of the dinosaurs, the new dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs are cool.
The Volcanosaur. You get one free golden one. So I tried him out a little bit yesterday.
It's interesting that they released a card ahead of the set like that.
Well, the funny thing is, he has the new adapt mechanic, which means you can change his form slightly, buff him. You get a pick of 3 each time you do it, and he can. I think his thing is that he double adapts. You get to do it twice. It's a battle cry effect, and for like a couple of days, i.e., yesterday and today, until the new set hits, you can use him with Bran Bronzebeard, so you can adapt 4 times because Bran's going off to live on the farm with Piloted Shredder, unfortunately, after tomorrow. So yeah, I was trying that out in boring old Jade Druid list because I had a Druid quest. See, I'm excited. Like, any time, like, this is the golden time for any CCG. Like, people theory crafting, trying out new stuff, then getting their heads kicked in by old refined decks. James is fired.
James is so sassy right now. My goodness.
I'm also playing. Is this now playing now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So today.
Oh, cool. Here we go.
Today, I'm also going to probably play, if I find time amongst the email catastrophe, to do the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood, which is the PvE expansion for the Elder Scrolls game, which is all kind of like they have like the Night Mother in it, if you remember from Elder Scrolls. Do you remember the Night Mother? It was like a kind of cadaver in a sarcophagus that was like the god of the Dark Brotherhood, or the those assassin dudes.
Okay, sure.
Do I know more lore than you?
Definitely. I mean, the Elder Scrolls lore I don't think is great. So.
Yeah. Well, there's some cool cards. That's out today. It's like $20. It's kind of like a Hearthstone adventure. It's like a bunch of missions with kind of bespoke effects. There's one where like there's a pig, I can't remember why, that swaps sides on the board and you have to keep the pig alive. I don't know, man.
That's cool.
Sometimes I think I just dreamt this stuff.
It's just all in your head.
Yeah. Elder Scrolls Assassins today, Hearthstone Dinosaurs tomorrow.
Everyone is just playing along. We're all just like, yeah, the pig, definitely.
So rather than me bang on, let me plug a couple of pieces we wrote on the site. On Monday we had Simon Welch Sottle. He did I think 5 or 6 cards that are potentially broken in the new set. There's one called. They have these new quests now, which you have to fulfill a bunch of conditions, and you get this crazy OP card for doing it. And the mage one is called Time Warp, where you get to take another turn. So that's a pretty pretty nutty effect.
I'd just like to say, I know, as like a card game kind of guy, that card has been printed in every single card game ever made.
And it's always been broken.
The developers have always, at some point in the game's history, gone, we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And either nerfed it, or in the case of Magic, like the first time they made that card, it's one of the Power 9.
Power
It is
9,
banned
yeah.
from every format ever.
It's more boring if you think it actually just reads get 5 more mana this turn, because that's what it actually is, because it's it's not though, is it? Because you can play creatures and then attack with them, so it's effectively giving them charge. But yeah, I think people are going to do some cool shenanigans stuff with them. So that was published on Monday, and then we put something up today, which is speaking of these quest cards, there's one per class, and we had one of our writers break down, and he's a great player, good writer about the game as well. He broke down all 9 quests and sorted them into which were the most powerful, which sucked, and then which are kind of like weird and cool, but might be sort of fun. And he actually put this is the controversial bit. He put the priest quest in the good pile, which I know plenty of people disagree with. But what I would say in his defense is, before Mean Streets of Gadget Zone came out, he called that Finger the Murloc would be good. Like, not just good, like a complete powerhouse. And no one else really said that. People just said that, it would be good in anything Paladin, which of course it is, but no one predicted it would be used elsewhere, and that's why he writes for us. He's a smart boy.
Well, let's jump along. Actually, Kunifu just resubscribed for 14 months.
Yep.
Dang.
It says, love you, beautiful lads. We love you too, Kunifu. So, no, actually not James, because I want to skip James.
Okay.
On Now Playing. Have you been playing anything else, Tim? Or
I still was playing a Division right up to the point where I think I've now hit a wall with it, because for a while I would log in every day, like when I got home. I would do like the 3 daily missions. I would go into the Dark Zone, do that quest. I would go to the Underground and do that quest, and then I would try and do the weekly thing. And I just can we swear on this?
please.
I'm just fucking sick of it now. Like you get the same stuff. I think if the inventory management wasn't such an absolute shit show, I was gonna swear all the time now.
Here you go. Broke the dam.
I'd be all right. But like, I can't even keep up with trying to delete stuff, and it doesn't. You know when you get like a drop in a game, you get loot. What's the most important thing, right? You want to know if it's any good. Mm-hmm. With some of the Division stuff, you genuinely have to bring up a Google Doc weapon damage base calculator to compare whether. I end up keeping one around and then I just replace it if it's higher. But I've got a box of 165 things that are full. My character's like a fucking pack. I've got to stop swearing. It's like a pack mule, just like groaning under the weight of all this garbage she's carrying around. And much as I love. I think the combat in that game is better than it is in Mass Effect, but that's a controversial opinion.
Oh, gosh.
But much as I love being in that world, I wrote a thing on the site, I think maybe after last time I was on the show, saying that the end game or the year 2 plan for that game is death, basically.
It's dismal. It's a
It's a
disappointment.
disaster, yeah.
But, I mean, you got Destiny kind of coming in.
Yep, we got our shared world
that void,
shooter grind to come. I'd be interested to know what chat. We'll come to Destiny. I'll ask chat then.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Well, I've been playing. I want to do James last because I know you're going to be talking about Dark Souls a bit, and we can transition.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've been playing Feria still a little bit. Last week, you guys saw me jump out of my chair in excitement while playing Feria because
the art was so sexy.
Wrong game. You're thinking.
Wait, which one's that?
You're thinking of Shadowverse.
The booby.
I get all the card games mixed up.
No, I did not see a sexy anime card and jump out of my chair in excitement, James.
Okay.
No, they have the equivalent of Arena in Feria, but it's only till 9 wins, and I did an arena run because I had a quest that was like, I'll give you a pack if you do an arena run, and I was like, cool.
Did you have to pay for the arena run?
No, they give you the first one free.
Quite generous, isn't it?
Yeah, the first one they give you for free. That's how they get you. But there's actually a mode in it where you can do these practice arena runs where the cap is 3 wins or 2 losses instead of 9 wins or 3 losses. But if you get to 3 wins, you get a third of an arena ticket. So if you can get to 3 wins in this like smaller format 3 times, you can then it's pretty cool. So I got to that. Doing this arena run was my first time with PvP in the game, and I went 9-1. And so like I had only been playing single player, and then I went straight to this thing, and I was like super proud of myself. Kind of little.
Are you liking it? Are you liking it more than Duelist?
No. But I didn't mean that to sound so harsh. I think Fairy is a really, really fun game, but I'm still liking Duelist more. I think Duelist is more tactical, whereas Feria is like I don't know. It's still a really, really good game, and I don't mean to make it sound like it's not deep, but I just enjoy the art and everything of
Jodie
Duelist.
McGregor, I watching you play, I like the art of Feria quite a bit. But Jodie wrote a thing for us about how interesting the board was in Feria. The living board, is that right?
Yeah. That's the appeal of it
hook.
for sure. Yeah. Omadar79 just subscribed. Thank you very much. We appreciate the support. The other thing I've been playing, which I guess I should bring up, is ukulele.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because
How's like so much.
How'd that go? But
oh man,
if you say you jumped up in excitement at this card game. I saw you jump up in frustration several times over the last couple days.
There is a level. I reviewed ukulele. You can find the review at pcgamer.com/yuka-lele-review. It's not bad. It's Tim's mood. It's okay, right? It's
I've seen the characters in that game. They look much happier than me.
God, it's so disappointing because there are aspects of it that are just incredible. I think it looks beautiful. The UI completely goes away when you don't need it, so it's like shows you the whole
Like a
thing.
camera mode.
The music, Grant Kirkhope and David Wise just like absolutely knocking it out of the park in terms of music, like just incredible soundtrack to that game. Cool. There are a lot of things to love, and the level design is not one of them, basically. The level design, camera controls are really annoying, but like you can get over that. The problem, and I realized this actually while I was writing the review, when they say writing, you figure out what you want to write as you're writing it, right? And really what it is like the game feels like they designed each puzzle like in a white box Unity editor.
Oh, and then dump them into
and
the
then
levels.
like placed them into the levels and then put a theme over them. So you're never really platforming to get from one puzzle to another. You're just walking to a puzzle in a cute environment, doing a thing, and then going to the next one. And so it just feels really soulless, and it just gets kind of repetitive and boring.
I think one of the sentiments I read in your review and have seen echoed elsewhere was that it's quite faithful to what that N64 era of platformers that aren't Mario was, but at the same time, those games actually weren't that good. A lot of those suffered from the similar kinds of flaws back in the day.
Yeah, Sean Prescott over in our Australia office, and I didn't steal this from him because I thought it was such a good observation, is that like 3D platformers, collecting things in 3D platformers in 1998 was a novel thing because 3D was a novel thing. And just walking around these worlds to pick things up was like amazing. But like that's not really amazing anymore. And like it's still fun, but it doesn't have the same reason to like spend hours and hours on it.
I think I read like Dave Houghton from our sister site Games Radar as well. He was talking about how some of the puzzles or some of the things were ability gated, but would let you still try them. So like you could fail at something that you couldn't ever complete, but you could keep doing it. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, there are things like that.
That sounds awful.
I mean, I didn't get bugged as much by that, but basically what it is there are things in the levels that you will not be able to complete until you get an ability later, and then you come back for them.
But does it flag that to you properly?
Not really. So like I did this jumpy puzzle in the very first world that was like literally the guy was like, "Hey, are you the garbage man?" And you're like, "No, I'm not the garbage man." And they're like, "Okay, go pick up that paper for me." Like it's this cranky old guy, and it's like it's cute writing, right? But like the puzzle was literally pieces of paper were swirling around, and you had to just grab the pieces of paper. And I thought it was like maybe one of the worst things I've ever played in a video game. Like it was like I'm using these touchy jump controls to try to get razor thin pieces of paper floating in the air when I don't have enough height to do it. Every time I fall or make a jump for one, I have to like climb back up this thing to get to it. And I found out 3 hours later that you get an ability that lets you fly, and that's what you're supposed to do there. But I had completed...
I would have uninstalled on the spot.
I completed...
After I'd mopped the sick off my chest.
I did the entire thing with like just the double jump, basically. And then later I was like, God damn it. And there is a level, and I will say this, and this will be my last word on it. There is a level in the game called the Gloomy Gem Grotto, which is inside. Yeah, it's inside the like the glitter glaze glacier is the name of the level. It's inside the ice level. It's a cave inside the ice level. That there are parts of ukulele. Before I say this, there are parts of ukulele that are very fun. There are jumping platforming segments that are very fun. There are good 3D platforming parts of it. the Gloomy Gem Grotto or the Glowing Gem Grotto or whatever it's called is a criminal act against video games. It is punishable by jail time. It is so poorly designed. It's a pit. Let me paint the picture for you. It is a pitch black ice level with icy, slippery floors that you can only traverse using the roll ability, which has a limited amount of energy before you fall off.
Has it got a cooldown?
It's got a cooldown.
Of course it has.
There are enemies stopping you between the different sections that if you die, there are no checkpoints in the entire level.
I mean, why would there be?
Every time you die, the enemies come back.
Commit to the bit.
There are and every time you die, so you could be, and it's so long. It's like a 6-minute platforming segment.
Tom just led out of the podcast in a straitjacket.
It is just the worst thing I have ever done in a 3D platformer. And this is in the same game where they have other good things in it. I don't know,
What did you score it?
It was like a 68.
Seems high.
No, so that's the problem is there are parts of it that are fun, and then there are parts of it that you're like, this is awful. There's these 8 retro games in it, and most of the retro games are actually pretty fun little party games that you can play with people. And then one of the retro games is a Flappy Bird clone that is the worst thing in the world. So there are parts of that game where it feels just unrefined, basically, where they were like, this will be a good idea, and then they just didn't actually make it fun. But other parts that are, really enjoyable. And I think there are people who would play Banjo, who liked Banjo-Kazooie, will play this, and they'll be like, yeah, it's fine. They're not going to hate it. I didn't hate it. It was just an okay game that had some really, really bad moments in it and some pretty uninspired level design, which is a shame because, I was really looking forward to it. I'm a huge Banjo-Kazooie fan. And there's always people in reviews that were nostalgic games that are like, oh, they just didn't get it. They were just there was one comment that was
I think you got it.
There was one comment that was this guy was just wanting to didn't like the camera because he just wanted to go play Overwatch, and I was like, you
what the fuck
shut
does
up.
That mean?
So there you go, folks. That's your more uplifting show this week.
Anyway,
Tom stomps a cartoon iguana to death.
Yeah, I don't mean to completely hate on Yooka-Laylee. It's just that there were parts that were blood-boilingly bad amidst one of the prettiest games I've played in a long time with some of the best music I've seen in a long time. So it's just rough.
Tragic.
James, I'm going to shut up.
Okay.
Because the other thing I played was I started over Divinity Enhanced Edition.
Oh.
But that's I've talked about that on the show a million times, so I'm not going to. James, what have you been playing lately?
Oh,
and is it Dark Souls?
Well, that's part of it. I do want to run over a few things I've been
Please.
playing. First is I completed my first playthrough of Nier Automata.
Ooh.
And that's a cool game. I don't think I'm as taken with it as a lot of people, but then again, I'm on playthrough 1, and I hear its subsequent playthroughs are extremely sad and existential and weird. And it was a lot of those things already. So the drearier and sadder it gets, the more on board I am. Plus, it's got some rad combat and some silly action sequences, so it's been cool. The main thing I've been playing is Thimbleweed Park.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm probably nearly done with it. Andy Kelly reviewed it for us and gave it a pretty high score, I think somewhere in the 80s. And it's kind of an old school point-and-click adventure game from Ron Gilbert and David Fox, a lot of those old folks who used to work on some of the earliest adventure games. This one posits to it starts off as a murder mystery in this very Twin Peaksy town, small town, but it quickly becomes very self-aware and abandons the corpse because you start off standing over this dead body with a Mulder and Scully lookalike, and then the corpse literally just doesn't move for the rest of the game. It just kind of sits in the water as you two find objects to solve bizarre puzzles with, and it quickly becomes just totally ancillary to what is really going on.
Do you still have to solve the murder?
It's part of it for sure, but there's a lot more going on in Thimbleweed Park than
Why was that guy dressed as a bird?
Good question, Tim. That's the I forget what the Pigeon brothers, who are actually sisters. paranormal plumbing service, I think is what they're called. Anyway, there's just a lot of strange characters, and it's structured in such a way that I think it doesn't get rid of a lot of the problems of old, adventure games where the logic for some of the puzzles is just beyond you, or you're still pixel hunting for a lot of items, and it's funny because there's like literally an item you collect, motes of dust, tiny pixels, so you're literally pixel hunting sometimes. But it kind of compartment. There's one right there. I just spilled water. It compartmentalizes. This is a good show. It compartmentalizes
you can't dab
adventure game design with like 5 characters. So a lot
this is like an adventure game puzzle right here. Yeah. Is talk about this game while spilling water on yourself. Jeez.
It's funny. I did that literally yesterday while sitting at my computer. And I think I did it 2 months prior, sitting at my computer. And
you need a sippy cup. I'm gonna buy you a sippy cup.
That's why I usually drink from a bottle. Today, the one time I try not to. Anyway, it compartmentalizes these bigger puzzles that would probably confuse most players in smaller episodes. So you have 5 characters, and you just kind of solve their puzzles first and get to know them and learn the way they think and people perceive them before moving on to bigger puzzles. And it sort of just branches out into no one's listening to me, are they? You're just thinking about it. It looks like I pissed myself.
Well, that part's not on camera.
But anyway, it's good. Go play it. Fuck. Moving on. Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls.
Okay. Oh, man. James. Can you very moistly tell us about the new Dark Souls DLC? Because both of you guys are big into Dark Souls, right? You guys, Tim, I know you went surprisingly hard into it, I think.
Yeah, I only got into it with 3, and then so I played the last DLC, Ashes of Ariandel, and then the new one, The Ring City. I'm waiting to play. To my friend and I from back in the UK, we co-op it together because I'm not very good at it and I get scared on my own. So we tend to do a lot of it together as a way of kind of catching up with each other, like have a Skype conversation going. So he's gonna email me. I think he already has emailed me his save. I'm gonna put it on a laptop and then we're gonna play in the apartment when he's over. So I haven't dived into Ring City yet, but eager to hear what James makes of it when he dries off.
And this is the final DLC for them.
This is this is the last Dark Souls we might ever get.
What? Yeah, this is the last new anything Dark Souls?
He came out this week and said, I'm done, didn't he?
Yeah.
I know he always says that.
He being who?
Hidetaka Miyazaki, the president of From Software at this point.
The mind behind it all.
Yeah. But Dark Souls The Ring City DLC, I gave it a pretty good score. I think people perceived it as less than what they, it should be, and I think I gave it a 77. It's a nice chunk of DLC. It's a nice chunk of Dark Souls, but I think the expectations for something that is supposed to close out like the entire series
too high.
Yeah, and build on all the systems and answer a lot of questions, and like I think it was too high for a chunk of DLC to accomplish, right? And so I think I was harsher in that way. I still had a really great time with it. You start at the Dreg Heap, which is the final environment you encounter in Dark Souls 3, and it's all of time and space, because if you don't know much about Dark Souls lore, there's Cycle of Fire, and like mankind starts civilization over and over again by lighting this magical fire, yada yada. So all of time and space is like converging on this one point in the Ringed City. And you're going to go down there and basically like try and unclog that drain and see what's going on.
That is probably the best explanation of the plot.
Yeah, it's like literally that's what's happening, because you start off and there's all these tipped over buildings that you recognize from the series past, and they're all just like slowly going down into the ground.
So you're Dark Souls Mario, you're a plumber now?
Basically. I think thematically it's very... It's very interesting because, it's cool to see all these old pieces of Dark Souls lore in totally like flipped on their side, sometimes literally, and it's cool to see some of these bosses and like what their significance to the greater story, and they're still magnificent and a lot of fun to fight. But I think overall the level design it's not as inspired as it could be. In Dark Souls 3, a lot of the individual sort of, I hesitate to call them levels, but sprints to each boss were a lot more straightforward than Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls, which was this like big Metroidvania labyrinth that was, I think it'll be a long time before we see anything that intricate. And this feels like one of those straight lines pulled out of Dark Souls 3 and sort of like isolated and doesn't really connect with anything else. So when you're on one of these straight lines, it feels very, it doesn't feel like there's a lot to see or explore. There might be like a little vestibule off to the side you can kind of go into.
Nice use of vestibule.
Yeah, and there might be a ladder that sort of like brings you to a secret place and gives you a special item or armor set, but the levels don't really wrap around on themselves in an interesting way.
Does it feel at all like they just were like playing it safe for their final thing? Or?
I think they prioritized enemy design and sort of addressing the themes before the level. So, I mean, without spoiling, and it's hard to spoil something that's hard to parse anyway, but they sort of introduce environmental puzzles in the form of enemies, where a lot of what people have seen so far is just the angels in the first section are basically these sentries that fly above and you can't attack directly, and they force you to use cover and sort of stealth through each level, or the initial levels, and you can find like their route later on and like smash the root and it'll kill the angel. To anyone who doesn't know Dark Souls, this sounds like nonsense. But
I was just going to say, what?
It's like card level talk. But it essentially, it does something that I don't like in a Dark Souls game, where it like pushes you forward. These sentries and these stealth sections push you forward through the level. And it's hard to really soak in the great environment design and focus on exploration when you feel like you have nothing to do but move forward. Otherwise, you'll die and sprint between cover. And later on, they introduce another enemy that sort of does a similar thing with ranged attacks and summoning. And I think on their own, they're interesting ideas, but in the scope of the DLC, not really given time to breathe or given much experimentation. In like Dark Souls 3, you'll meet an enemy and like a basic enemy with a sword and a board, and the game has time to iterate on how it uses that enemy and in what situations, and in all sorts of level design throughout the entire game. So you might attack a guy in a bridge or one-on-one, or in the company of other types of enemies, and there's all these different scenarios you can like encounter them. And in Dark Souls DLC, it's like just too short to do that. That said, it's like 10 hours long. It took me like 10 hours to beat.
Is it? I mean, is it all new environment? You don't revisit any of the old Dark Souls 3
That's what's
areas?
cool about it. I think that's what's cool about it. It's just like you might be narrow passages that dump out into open arenas, and it's very straightforward, but it was way bigger than I thought it would be.
You said it was quite hard as well. A couple of the bosses, tough.
Yeah. The first boss, I feel like it's almost built for co-op, which you might like to know. Because it throws a lot at you, and it's got an extra health bar, and it's got stages, and it's like really fucking hard, until you learn it, and
right.
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls.
Yeah. And some of the other bosses, there's a secret boss that's probably the hardest thing, at least right off the bat, that I've played in a Dark Souls game, and it actively punishes like summoning for co-op. Sorry, Tim.
What?
Yeah, it's so big and has such wide-reaching attacks that by bringing in another person, you'll trigger its more dangerous attacks. And basically, you don't have to fight him though. You can just go look at him and forget it. It's fine.
Was this the boss that you posted an article about a dude beating without sprinting, dodging, or wearing clothing?
Yeah, it's that boss. So at the same time, if you just, basically game the system, you can beat it naked.
Oh, was he glitching it? Or?
No, I wouldn't say game the system. If you're observant and patient and you want to play it 100 times in a row, then...
Nope.
Nah, see.
100 might be conservative.
Yeah, but I think... I just wrote something. I don't know if it's gone up yet, but it was CMS and ready to go. It closes out, at least thematically. I don't think people who have been cataloging the lore are going to get all the answers they want, and there's not going to be like this keystone bit of information that's going to tie the whole series together. And there's a lot of things I wanted to see more of, and I wish it could have had its, maybe its own $30 expansion and like twice the time to develop and something like that. But it closes out in a very kind of quiet, poetic in boss fight that I think is a nice wrap on the series. Even if it doesn't answer everything, it's still a very, I don't know, it stood out to me as beautiful and sort of an inverse of specific moments from the series past, and it's also just a really, really fun boss fight. So I think for $15, you can't go wrong with it, period. Especially if you just want more Dark Souls. There's some really cool items, like basically a fucking lightsaber dagger. Yeah, it kind of goes buck wild. It also gives you +3, which is like a tier of ring, in your first game instead of New Game Plus or New Game Plus 2. So you can get really powerful items right at the end. It's like the kindest Dark Souls has ever been in terms of loot.
It's because this is the end.
Yeah, and
you have nothing to use it on.
Some of the there's some cool like secrets and Easter eggs. There's a nice little wrap on an NPC that you've seen in every game since.
Do you think this really is the last Souls thing we'll see?
I hope it's the last Souls thing we see in this format,
this iteration,
in bonfires, in this kind of level design, and this like understanding of how we see. I hope if we do see Dark Souls again, it's fundamentally different. And I have no idea what that looks like, but I think there's room for interesting design
for it to evolve into something else
in that same world.
So we saw From Software do their own thing on PS4 with Bloodborne, which then totally influenced Dark Souls 3, I think.
Yeah, it was a shift in their design ethos, I think, for sure.
And then we've seen coming out, and this got brought up in the chat as well, the makers of Lords of the Fallen are making that game called The Surge, which is like a robot future sci-fi-y kind of Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
Because Lords of the Fallen was Dark Souls-y and was pretty good, right? Like that was people liked that game.
It was fine.
I give you a clue, Tom. Everything's Dark Souls-y now.
That's and I think that's why it's time for Dark Souls to be done.
But Lords of the Fallen and The Surge are like very specifically that style game.
Absolutely.
So the question I have for you is like, where do you want to see From go from here, or where do you want to see the series or like the concept go?
Just make a MOBA.
Oh my God!
My heart just
wow.
No. Tom, I could sit here and like try and predict. I think selfishly, I want more Bloodborne, and on the PC because that's the best Souls game there is. But I want them to do whatever. Like I think I'm more interested in kind of what is going on in Miyazaki's mind and that team's mind, and like what that kind of design talent and artistic talent and can do when they're not like obligated to do Dark Souls. And I know, I forget what their mech series is called. But From did a mech series people respected a lot, and I know like that's been rumored to be in the hopper. And they have 2 other games I think they're working on simultaneously. And recently Miyazaki came out and said like, we're just not working on these games with Souls in mind at all. There might be things you recognize, there might not be things you recognize. And I think that's like the best thing they can possibly do moving forward, is just like to not feel obligated to do more, because I think for people who finish this DLC, it's easy to read it as sort of a and I don't like to because it's a little ham-fisted to me, but it's easy to see it as an analogy for just Souls being exhausted as a design, and I'm okay with that. I think it is exhausted, and everyone else is doing it. Like you've got these other developers, Lords of the Fallen, The Surge. Every other game has like a Souls, something plucked from that design, and I think that's we're not going to be wanting for that kind of game anytime soon, because it's
even like Resi 7 in that DLC stole that, like where you die, you drop your stuff, you've got one chance to go back and get it. Like that stuff is so widespread now.
It's everywhere, and I think the work of Souls is done, and like I'm ready to move on. It's not the most explosive, mind-blowing final chapter, but it's full of really great moments, some great callbacks, and it plays super well. So
Could we get you to cry if we like keep poking at this?
I
It's
mean,
over, James.
I just cried like all over my groin here.
So in an interview from the Tokyo Game Show in September from IGN that he did with IGN, Miyazaki said there are several titles that we're currently working on. Some of those are dark fantasy. Some of those could be a mech game. That's one thing.
And that's quite specific.
Yeah,
some of those could be a mech game.
Yeah.
It is a mech game.
The second thing is that one of the new titles I've been working on will probably comply with the expectations from fans in a straightforward manner. The last thing is that another title will probably be a little bit weird. When we actually announce the title, probably fans will react with, "Oh, what the hell is this very weird game that Miyazaki has created?"
Perfect.
So
it sounds like they're juggling everything like enough to appease people. Dark fantasy mechs.
The comply one will be Bloodborne 2.
Comply. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think Bloodborne has one final punch in it. And yeah, you know.
And they said also in that interview specifically, we are already working on Armored Core. So like that is a thing that they're doing.
Cool. Right on.
So thank you IGN for that interview.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like they're busy, and I wonder. You know, it was interesting to see what they did with Bloodborne when they had a chance to just kind of like do what they wanted.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, because I think they've become a really strong development studio over the course of the Dark Souls
Very
series.
strong. Can we talk about Bloodborne for an hour?
No.
Fuck.
No.
Tim, you gotta play that. I'm just saying.
I'm a PC guy.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. Mr. 3,000 hours in Destiny.
2,000.
2,000. Only 2,000.
People in the podcast couldn't see that, but Tim literally just had his head in his hand when he said 2,000.
I was playing it last night.
So let's stop talking about console games then and start talking about PC games like Destiny, right?
Oh,
yeah. So this has been rumored forever, right? Like this has been rumored since there have been Destiny 2 rumors.
I mean, I think PC was talked about as a platform circa Destiny 1. I think honestly, looking back, the only reason it didn't happen was because at the time, Bungie, I'm sure kind of via Activision, were committed to also supporting the legacy consoles, PS3 and Xbox 360. Yeah. So that meant they had like 4 platforms to ship a pretty complicated game on. And I think they just couldn't bite off PC as well. Whereas now, having dumped those 2 consoles, they're focusing on PS4, PC, and Xbox One, and I would assume Xbox Scorpio as well. Once that arrives, given it's just going to be a big old PC in a box, the time feels right.
Yeah, and I mean, like, so you guys have both played Destiny a lot. I've mentioned on the show.
A little bit.
I've played Destiny a very, very little amount, very small amount. I did basically what you could do until you needed a PS Plus account, and then I was like, I ain't buying that, and I stopped. Yeah. Because I didn't buy the game, I was borrowing it. Well, I'm not going to buy PS Plus for just this one thing. Literally, I cannot play shooters with a controller. If I play a shooter with a controller, I'm just like, I can't do it. I
like it. Bungie games are made for controllers, which is an interesting question.
No, that's something I was going to bring up.
I mean, it's kind of true though, right?
Yeah.
Tim pulls up his sleeves and reveals that he's also really into like hurting himself physically.
Well, I mean, I used to work on a PlayStation magazine. So.
Yeah. But I mean, so I didn't play it, but like as a non-Destiny fan, essentially, I'm actually excited for Destiny 2 because I think they did.
Let me ask why you're excited. Because I'm sure, like some people, the thing I've noticed whenever I write about it on PC Gamer, which has been a little bit since the announcement, we've done a couple of stories about the trailer and some other stuff. I think it's a game that people seem to be very skeptical about, and I think because when Destiny 1 launched. At least I always have to kind of caveat that with this. For console, it was, I think, a very new concept. I know Warframe is around and it's on multi-platform, but personally, I haven't played that much Warframe. I know they share similar ideas, and I know like loot grind games are not new, but I think that kind of conflation of a classical FPS, because they were a classic FPS developer, made Halo, with that kind of layering of RPG stuff and loot stuff and having raids and all that kind of thing was pretty new. And let's be honest, at launch it was kind of a mess. I mean, it wasn't kind of a mess. It was a hot mess. Yeah, like the end game, like people did not even understand what the end game was. Like it was all over the place. You would get to level, I think it was 20 back then or whatever, and you just wouldn't know what you were doing. You were like, what do I play the same missions over and again? What for? Like all those sort of systems were a nonsense. And then they had I'll give you a little quick potted history. They had the first DLC, which was The Dark Below, which brought a new raid, some more story missions, which people gobbled up within a couple of weeks. The new raid was buggy as fuck, and actually I think quite fun. I've been playing it again recently, but it was really buggy. They made some economy changes that were like absolutely obnoxious because they had such a dearth of content. They made you re-level all the exotic, which is the highest tier gear that you'd got, and at the time, re-leveling it would take hours and hours of play to re-level one gun, and there were decisions at the time which I found breathtakingly stupid. Like could not believe what they were doing, but at the same time, I kept playing throughout these bad times, which all kind of a lot of it got fixed when they did the first almost like. It was kind of like Destiny 1.5 when they released the Taken King, which was kind of bigger than a DLC, not quite as big as a full game, as a big expansion. A lot of the kind of the economy stuff and the balance stuff got fixed then. But the reason I think I stuck with it, and a lot of people kind of rode that out, was because Bungie are amazing world builders. It's a really cool universe to explore and be in. Their combat is super satisfying. Yeah, like the reason people loved Halo back in the day was it was one of the games that coined moment-to-moment gameplay because they built everything around these bubbles of action within which you could, feel incredibly powerful. And people in chat are all calling me a scumbag, aren't they? I can feel it already.
No, actually, there was just a comment from Twitchy Rachel who said, "I'm hot for this Destiny guy. He could raid my Cabal stronghold any day."
God bless you. I hope to meet you someday, Twitchy Rachel.
I think you might have already.
Yeah, I might have done. So yeah, I could evangelize why I think you guys on PC, if you haven't played it before, should be excited about it. Maybe you played Warframe and played the Division and think this kind of thing is played out. But the time I've spent specifically, I would say, with the raids, which are 6-man activities where they're like huge kind of complex dungeons with multiple boss encounters that usually require an element of puzzle solving and then extreme coordination and teamwork and careful kind of building the comp of the 6 players you go in with to try and synergize and stuff. Like the moments I've had in those raids, which have been like maddening at times, but also like super funny, super kind of like bonding with people you've never met before. Like, I mean, people who've raided MMOs will all understand this. And someone said to me, "Oh, the reason you love Destiny so much was because it was your first big MMO." And like, I know it's not WoW, it's not that kind of thing, and maybe there's some truth in that. But like last year, James, you came with us on one of the raids. I think we were with Corey, who used to write for the website, and Rob Zachney, who now writes for Waypoint. And we were in there for a few hours. The time temp has got fray, but we did it in the end. And I think it was Rob or someone else described it as like trying to do synchronized swimming while being shot at. Yeah. And it's this weird experience that I just think. I think people on PC are going to go nuts for it. That's why I'm so enthusiastic about covering it on the site, because people for a long time have said, we often write stories like, when will Halo ever come back? The reason we want Halo back is because Bungie are really good. And I know that a lot of people have left Bungie, and there'll be a bunch of people going, "Oh, they're not the company they were." They make fucking great shooting experiences. And raiding in Destiny, which is my jam. I'm not really into the PvP side of it, but raiding is like nothing quite else. And I think like I'm really excited to when it comes out, assuming it isn't terrible, and I think we'll know a lot more quite soon because there's going to be an open beta in the summer.
Yeah. They'll be showing gameplay in like a couple
gameplay
weeks
next month.
Sometime
May 18, I think I want to say. I want to say May 18. It is May 18. So yeah, they're going to show actual gameplay. I think people who are skeptical now, my hope is they'll be pleasantly surprised. And the reason I'm quite confident about that is that this game was actually meant to come out last year, and they persuaded Activision to let them delay it and put out Rise of Iron instead, which was another kind of placeholder's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, like a fill-in DLC. Mm-hmm. So they've actually been working on this a hell of a long time. I think there's multiple developers on it as well. Vicarious Visions, who I know have like you know, not everyone. I think they did the PC port maybe of Call of Duty, which wasn't beloved. So we'll see. I'll be very surprised if this isn't pretty sexy on PC.
Yeah.
There was a thing on Nvidia actually. It popped up. Someone was showing me on Destiny Reddit. On GeForce Experience, it popped up some picture sort of showing that they'd gone into a log file and seen that they were already working with the drivers for it and stuff. So
good.
Well, that's
I guess
encouraging.
getting ready for the beta.
I mean, the port is the scariest thing in my mind because, like, I guess what I was gonna say is the reason I'm actually excited for it, as someone who's not played Destiny at all, is because I've only heard good things about the shooting.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of, like, it reminds me a lot of Borderlands Destiny, and
Yeah, there's a bit of that in there.
I liked Borderlands a lot, and I like the idea of taking that Borderlands kind of into a more online kind of experience. I'm really into just the idea of the game, and I would have played probably Destiny 1 with friends if I had the opportunity to, but I just didn't or chose not to. And yeah, I'm just excited for like a game I've been hearing people talk about for so long to actually play. And I think the reason that there's such like inherent cynicism around Destiny from a PC player standpoint is because it was like the console darling that snubbed the PC, right?
I think
like,
that's definitely true.
It's a big part of that, which is totally fair to hold a grudge, like if you want to hold a grudge, but I don't think it necessarily reflects poorly at all on the sequel.
I mean, the thing I would say is as well, they must be confident if they're running this beta. So try the beta and you'll see for yourself. I mean, one of the things I was chatting to Andy Chalk, our news guy, about this, because when they made the announcement last week, what they had, you know, as it always is the case in 2017, they were kind of shoveling the expansion pass, and they've already announced 2 DLCs for it. And people were like, "Oh, this is typical, trying to make me sign up for this stuff." And I totally get that. I understand why people are really, really kind of frustrated by sometimes those aggressive tactics. The one thing I would say is with a game like Destiny, you need there to be expansion packs, because otherwise the whole thing gums up. The whole game is based on like, you need new stuff to chase, new carrots on sticks, new loot to kind of go after. And without, I think for someone like me who's played a lot of it, and the people in like the clan I play with, we were like relieved to see that they were planning these things early, because the things that really imperiled Destiny during its 3-year lifespan was the huge chunks of time when there was no new content and people were just like climbing the walls and burning Reddit down, going like, you know, why aren't you balancing it? Why aren't you putting any new stuff in? Like, that's their biggest problem, right? In year one, with Destiny 1. All the talk from behind the scenes that was widely reported on Kotaku, places like that, was that the engine itself was a pig to make new stuff for. There was talk of like just to move a rock, you had to kind of like open a thing and then come back in the morning, and that's how long it took to open the level up sort of thing, and just to move one rock. So my hope is they've moved to a new engine and that it's much easier to create assets for, because otherwise I think they're going to struggle with the same. How do you keep, and this was exactly the problem the Division ran into and has suffered, I think, even worse ultimately for, is like, how do you keep adding new stuff to these worlds to stop players burning out? And unless they find a way to solve that, I think however good this game is, they'll run into that again as an issue. Now, I would love to see them come up with some procedural stuff or a forge mode type thing where users can you know, heavily change PvP maps, or even design their own story missions that maybe can have rewards if they're, you know, sort of cherry picked by Bungie. That's the kind of stuff. I wrote a thing on the site, 6 things we want, which you mentioned last week, but that's the kind of stuff I'd like to see them do, and I think actually would play to the PC community really well, because that's, you know, the world we come from, or the PC players come from, of, you know, modding and creation and sharing. Yeah.
James, you looked like you were going to say something earlier.
Oh, yeah, I was going to point out, I think there was no, Tim's excited. This is he's finally, you know, he's uncorked. He gets to do this. You were talking about like the pipe for content, and I think we reported on a rumor, again, a big rumor, that the content plan for the expansion releases is actually fairly close. I don't know the exact dates that we found.
I think one was December.
Yeah.
So the game's out in September 8th.
Yeah.
First drop would be December, which would be about 3 months later, because that was kind of the cadence they had in year one.
Yeah.
And then the next one I think would be like February or something. I want to say, or maybe they said spring. I'm not sure.
Pull it up.
Sure. I think either way, just it reassured me, again, a rumor, that And I think it would be shooting themselves in the foot to not have some kind of new pipeline entirely planned out, because I don't know, there was 2 months there where, or whatever, when Destiny first released, that people were just scraping the end of that shallow game. Great game, but I could shoot Cabal's heads off on the moon until the apocalypse comes.
I mean,
what an amazing sentence that was.
Thank you.
As someone who doesn't play Destiny at all.
Oh, yeah.
The death animations in it are great.
So love it.
They're like it's like a squishing bubble wrap shooting the enemies. You never get bored of it.
That's like one concern I have is, and Tim, maybe you can speak to this, is do you think that kind of the satisfaction from shooting is it feels tied to the controller and how you aim and the slight amount of lock on and the force feedback you get? Do you feel like it's going to translate to the PC very well, mouse and keyboard?
I don't know. I think that's a legitimate concern. Yeah. I don't know. Like Bungie's, you're right. That sticky auto aim that Bungie's had for controllers is a part of the feel. But then I think they have. They've also tended to make all their games in 30 frames a second, right? And that's been part of their kind of feel too. And I think obviously that won't wash. No. So like this is going to be a different game. I mean, hopefully we'll get to play it and report back relatively quickly, I guess. If they're showing the footage soon, then I would imagine we get to play it soon after.
Yeah, and I will say I've said this on the show before, but I'm a fan of the here's the official announcement for this game. It is coming to PC. It will be here in 5 months, right? Like I like that as opposed to the 3 years of hype some games get, right? Like the fact that and we've known about Destiny 2 for a while, but the fact that it was officially announced, hey, gameplay's coming on this date, then the actual game is coming on this date, like right all at once, is really, really nice.
My hope is again that speaks of confidence. I mean, that's how it feels.
It feels confident, yeah.
Whereas you look at something like Mass Effect where they suddenly put out like 20 trailers, what it felt like in 2 weeks, and you just went, this seems weird. And now the game comes out and you go, oh, that was why.
Real quickly, before we keep talking about Destiny, I have to catch up on subs because there have been a lot. So HGC Bad 187 just subscribed, and then we got a bunch of resubs. So PM Floyd 94 for 4 months.
I'm going to salute all the subs.
Flaxcam and Jules both did 5 months, and Has Muffins with 6 months. Thank you very much, all of you.
God bless you, Muffins.
So the thing that's interesting to me, though, is it's interesting to hear you guys as Destiny players say it's really cool that they already have something coming out in the winter for like a DLC pack in the winter and then another DLC pack in the spring, and you can buy the season pass right now because like they released that purchase site, right, where you can choose one of 6 different types of game and like all that stuff in the season pass or whatever. And I was just like,
I mean, I won't be buying the messenger bag, Tom. that is a line I draw out.
But like I have a what's the word, like a visceral reaction to somebody being like, here's the game and there's already going to be DLC and then there's going to be more DLC and you can buy it all right now when they like haven't even shown us gameplay. Like I know that's how the business works now and I know that's how like the selling games works, but the idea that they are selling us on content that just like is going to come a couple months after like doesn't sound like a positive to me as someone who's not used to the rhythm of a game like that.
Yeah, I think it's more like I think you have to look at it more as like a pure play MMO and go like if there was a brand new MMO coming out and it was a universe you were super excited about. I can't think of a good example of one to give now. What are you into, Tom?
What? I'm confused.
Ukulele MMO.
Yeah, ukulele MMO.
All right, not that.
Like Duelist or something
Duelist
like that.
MMO.
Like if there was like an IP intellectual property that was making an MMO that it was like just coming to PC, and you were determined, you were definitely going to be into it, right? You really want it to happen. I think you would be comforted by the idea that they were, whatever happened, there was more stuff coming for it. If it's more like you're coming in and like maybe there'll be more shit, maybe there isn't. That, like I said, that big problem with the Division is people thought there was going to be more stuff, and now there isn't. Like year 3 is like, or year 2 is like nothing. It's like some balance patching.
I get that. The main thing though is like, I look at this idea of like DLC every 3 to 5 months, and then I look at something like WoW, where WoW has a subscription model, so a monthly subscription, so that's a different case in that sense. But WoW got its Legion update or expansion last year. People bought the Legion expansion, and they've done, what, 2-3 major patches since then, the most recent of which was like basically an expansion in itself, like as part of that expansion.
But that is being paid for, just in a different way.
You're
It's just
paying-
being paid for with subs.
And I don't know, if you listed the sub price, next to the pre-orders for Legion and said, here's Legion coming for whatever, $40, $50. Get this package that includes 3 months of subscription for this. I think they're splitting the difference between the sort of pre-order language and like expansion process that people who play shooters are used to seeing, and those who are
that's exactly it. They are too scared to try to, or they must think it would be incorrect for them to try and sell it as a sub type thing. Because you could say maybe it's like a $5 a month sub, and then we'll pay for the new content that way. I think it's purely they've decided that like the shooter gamer is not used to consuming a game in that way.
Okay, I like that answer. Because it
comes
odd,
down to. I think it's going to come
it
down
feels
to.
Odd.
Like with anything, it's going to come down to how much do you like that game. If you love that game, you're probably not gonna bat an eyelid about paying more for it. In the same way as like you look at something like GTA, right? Do you remember when like Lost and the Damned came out, and the other one, Ballad of Gay Tony?
Yeah.
People were so hungry for more GTA stuff that they were just like, oh my god, great, more GTA stuff, because they loved that game. What's the point I'm trying to even make here?
I don't regret spending money on any of Destiny's expansions.
Yeah, this was the point I was going to make. Thank you. So like I've ended up sinking like thousands of hours into that game. If they could have made more stuff, I would have gladly paid for it, right? I would have, the famous quote Luke Smith made about players throwing money at the screen, which got people very upset when they were talking about emotes in the paid DLC, the paid cosmetic store. I understand why he said that, and I understand why people got annoyed by it. But I can see both sides of it. It's like there is, for the people who are into that game, like with WoW, there is a voracious appetite for content. So of course they're going to charge for more stuff down the line. Yeah. But we keep coming back to like try it. You'll be able to this summer, and you make up your own minds.
Yeah. Cheapo Joe just subscribed as well, so thank you very much. Is there any? Do you guys have any? I know you wrote that post about 6 things you want from it, or that it needs to succeed. But like, is there any hopes and dreams you have for this?
I think my dream, one of the dreams I made was that there should be some sort of shared account thing, so that you should just have like a Bungie account you can take from like, maybe you've come from console and you want to, because you can't bring much stuff over. You can only really bring across the likeness of your character. So one thing to note is like people on PC definitely won't be at any sort of disadvantage. You're not going to like be down on gear versus other people. All that stuff's being reset. So if this is a final time to start from scratch, everyone's going to have to level their characters up. But I really want, the things I mentioned was I really want there to be like some sort of shared account, because I think for the convenience of people like being able to play with other communities and move around, like Final Fantasy 15 I think does that with PlayStation and PC to good effect. But I don't think that will happen because of some of the content exclusivity. There need to be dedicated servers for PvP. That's been a big problem with the first one. Low tick rate servers.
Yeah, Evan was telling us last week that it was like a 10 hertz tick rate or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like a peer-to-peer connection as well. Yeah, so like you'd end up playing someone in New Zealand and it would be garbage. They need to not do that this time.
I can't imagine that Bungie screws up the actual like gameplay side of this too badly, right?
Well, the thing, if I sound like a super fanboy, which maybe I do, I probably do. The one thing I will say is I'm sure they'll get a couple of things really wrong, because like in each expansion there's been some things which I've just gone, wow, why?
But so what I mean though is like with the first one under their belt, I can't imagine that the game like it could have huge problems like that, but like it's not going to be this hot pile of garbage to me unless they screw up the details. The details being server tick rates, refresh rates,
quality of the
port quality. That stuff in my mind is a completely huge question mark.
Their anti-cheat stuff will need to be very good as well.
Yeah.
Like the cheats destroyed the Division to a degree on PC in the early days.
Information locally, and people could just tinker with it, no problem.
Yeah, that caused huge trouble for Division. Yeah.
What about you, James? Is there anything you want?
I think for me, I love how that game looks, and I love the world, as like hokey as it can be sometimes. I want the open environments, or I just want a more seamless experience overall. I want to get on my speeder bike directly from like a hub and just...
It's called a Sparrow, James.
Sparrow, god damn it. and just like drive off into the world and find something interesting with people. Maybe there's a hidden like encounter in this space, or there's I can like directly go, instead of loading into a raid or whatever, I just go to it and meet with people there in front of it. Kind of like The Division has some really good stuff like that, where you just can like stand in front of a mission.
You were talking a little bit last week as well about the stuff Division did well, like the Dark Zone, whether it did well or not. Conceptually, at least, it was interesting that kind of shared PvP area.
Yeah,
like people talked in
PvP
Destiny about having like a PvP planet for a while would be cool.
I think it would be great. Certain regions that are just PvP's on and it's kind of a free for all, or maybe there's like a Horde and Alliance kind of equivalent in Destiny, because there's all sorts of factions and maybe you can play Cabal
and what if there was like a cow race where you could
whatever, man. Yeah, I don't know. I just have high hopes for the overworld in general. It's got some really great, just intense like raid design. I just want the world itself to be a bit more fun to poke around in. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's open it up to our Twitch chat Q&A so we can get your guys' thoughts. Tag us with @PCGamer in the Twitch chat. Ask us whichever's on your mind in Destiny land or Dark Souls land or anything in the world of PC gaming, and we will check it out. You can always join us right here at twitch.tv/PCGamer, right around 2 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday. Every Wednesday, you are welcome to join and come ask your questions live. Or you can always ask questions for us at discord.gg/PCGamer.
Right, 1 p.m. Pacific.
2 p.m. is when we do questions, though. 1 p.m. is when we go live. I'm just giving people the straight juice now.
I don't want to miss the beginning.
I know. I don't want them to miss the beginning
either.
Good
bits where Tim curses.
They don't want to miss James soiling himself.
God, someone's going to pull that clip. I just know it. Jules, go pull it.
Buttface Jones says, not really a question. Please just look into the camera and say, a new competitive online Armored Core on PC. I didn't look into the camera, but I said it. So I'm counting that? Yeah. Because I don't know if I could do it word for word. Let's take some other questions, though. Once again, we will hit our subscribers first if we can. PM Floyd94 asks, what game are you most excited about coming out this year? Tim, if you could say something other than Destiny 2, that would be great.
Come to me last then.
Oh, shoot. What else is coming out?
So, like, the question is just...
Heavy front load.
There's a lot of good games that already came out on PC, and it's like...
Outlast 2.
Outlast 2. Ooh, good shout.
If you're a spooker.
I got to pull up a list because there's so
Call
much.
Of Duty.
No, get out. What are you doing?
Are you getting the list up here?
I'm pulling up a list because there's got to be a lot, right? Like, there's got to be things that I'm just not thinking of. The Franz Kafka video game.
Prey looks great.
There you go.
I got one.
Yeah.
I said Dawn of War 3.
Oh, yeah, that one's coming up, too.
Beta,
big 40K fan.
April 21st, right?
Yeah.
Beta?
Yeah, the sign-ups are open today, actually, if you want to sign up.
Get in there.
Did you go and Prey, James? Because you already played a little bit of it.
Prey is my most immediate game I'm excited for, but there's probably things down the line I just can't think of.
I'm interested. I don't know if I'm exactly excited like for it already, but I'm interested in seeing more of Shadow of War.
Yeah, good.
That trailer, that gameplay,
it
was very rehearsed, but that was cool.
Yeah, I'm really optimistic about that game, but I'm also reserving like pure excitement. Honestly, I'm really excited for Destiny 2 also. Like that is a game I really would like to play.
It's gonna be fun to actually just have, we can talk about it in the office without like having to, quiet down.
If you'll go raiding without me, I'll be really sad.
You just eat it up so quickly though. You know what I mean? But we can just do it at work. Because it will be work.
Yeah.
Crazy Connect asks, going back to earlier, Tom and James, how many hours have you spent in your most played game?
People are not going to like my answer.
What is yours?
I don't spend a lot of time with games.
Okay.
I think the most I spent in a game, well, actually, probably Destiny is like 300 hours or so, which is child's play compared to Tim's numbers. But other than that, like Borderlands, I like games where I can get together with friends and dink around in. And then beyond that, just like I guess the Dark Souls series as a whole.
Because because sports games, like if you took a game like FIFA, which I played since I was a kid, then if you racked up all the FIFAs, that would maybe be even higher. But yeah, even like a big RPG, like a Witcher. What do you spend in The Witcher? Probably like 100 and something, maybe
something like that. You know, yeah.
If you count all the DLC.
Yeah, it's hard for me to get really, to build a home inside a multiplayer shooter unless I have like, especially with this job, I tend to be like.
You get moved from game to game, to be fair. I mean, like, because you were a Division guy for a while, and you'd done like what 50, 60 hours, and then like I've done like 150 in about 3 weeks.
Surpassed me like it was nothing. But
I don't have a hard answer on mine actually, because my answer is almost certainly League of Legends. Or Minecraft, and neither of those games have trackers. Or League might, but it didn't when I was playing it. I'm certain I have hundreds of hours in both of those games. I just don't know where in the hundreds range. Like Minecraft might be 1,000 hours. I might have hit 4 digits. With
I don't know how long I've done in Hearthstone, but I know I've got like 5,000 ranked ladder wins and like 3 golden heroes now, which are 500 wins each, and that's just ranked, so it's without playing casual and stuff.
Damn. And without losses, right? So
yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of time.
So you got to figure there's more than double the amount for losses, probably.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Nah, you got to higher than 50%.
Well, over that many games, I probably am about 50%.
Yeah, I think I've definitely put hundreds and hundreds of hours into League and Minecraft, which ironically are both games I don't really play anymore.
No, I was gonna say.
Those were my games all through high school and college. Okay. Like I played tons of them. I knew like redstone contraptions like the back of my hand, like that sort of stuff. I really, really got into Minecraft. And League too. League, man, that was my game for a while. Yeah. And then I just kind of didn't have time for it anymore. It was so. I think I may have said this already, but it's so crazy.
That's not true. He got banned by Riot for toxicity.
No. I was the guy in chat who was like, "Hey, don't yell at people,"
and
like
nice.
I was that guy. But I like to give you an idea on League. I can't even. Dang it, Tim! I can't even remember what I was going to say anymore.
You were going to say to give us an idea in League, and then some example of how much you played League.
Yeah, and it's gone. Oh, yeah. So the reason I left League was because like I hated looking at the clock and being like, man, I got to leave for a thing or I got to leave for class in an hour and 15 minutes. I don't have time to start a game of League because it was like maybe I'll queue for 5 minutes and then the queue will get in and then it'll drop and I'll be in the queue for 5 more minutes and then like I'll get into a game and then it'll be an hour-long game and my life is gone. Like.
I was watching at the weekend. I don't know why, because I don't really understand Magic or I don't play Magic. But I was watching Frank Lepore, who's a really nice guy, CCG expert, streaming the Magic game on Twitch, and like they were doing like Modern Masters drafting, and it took like I don't know, fucking 20 minutes just to make their decks before they started playing. I was just like, nobody got time for this.
That, no.
Game looks like a spreadsheet as well. It's really sad.
Jules says he has 2,500 hours in CS 1.6 and 2,500 hours in CSGO, so like 5,000 hours total.
We should do something on the site about like what's the longest you've spent in a game.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Also, Benf234 just subscribed. But let's take some more questions because there are a lot to get into it. But I liked that question. There we go. Varendeel asks, do you have any particular quotes from games that have stuck with you, whether because it was funny, deep, clever, political, emotional, or for any other reason? For me, it's Geralt being told to fuck off by the vampire he inadvertently wakes up in The Witcher 3.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. The only thing that's jumping to mind is a quote from Ukulele where you beat the ice boss and he's shooting ice snowballs at you the entire time, and when he dies, he says, "Tell my family I went out doing what I loved, throwing snowballs at an interspecies buddy duo." And I was like, that's brilliant. But
I think anything the G-Man says to like pander to our audience.
Rise and Shine is really stuck in my head forever.
Rise and Shine, Mr. Freeman, that whole thing. Like, anything he says is pretty good. Again, Portal quotes stick with me, just about all of them. Jeez. I don't know, Tim, what about you? You got any?
I'm blanking, so I'll probably... what was the Metal Gear before the last one?
4.
The end of that when he says like at his grave like this was good, wasn't it? My friend Dan Dawkins loves that quote.
Oh yeah, that's a good scene.
Yeah, that's a console game, so I feel bad.
Oh, Scarfington totally says all the Warcraft 2 unit quotes stick with me. That's true too. All the Warcraft
RTS
units.
unit barks are great.
Stop poking me.
Yeah.
You're not that kind of orc. That was one of my favorite ones. When you poke the guys over and over again.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway.
James, I want you to know I nearly spilled my bottle of water just now, but I didn't.
Oh, there you go.
Damn it.
Battletank asked if we're ever going to do a community Overwatch game. Yes, at some point that is in the works. We just don't know when yet. But we want to because they have the server stuff now. Ace Rosen asked, "What's your favorite gaming joke or meme?" I've come back around on Half-Life 3 Confirmed. Like it was this period where I was like, this isn't funny anymore. I'm done with it. And now I
think it's definitely funny.
I think it's art now. It's gotten back out of the valley.
Because I think everyone's accepted it's never coming out, right? So now it's just,
Yeah.
it's this kind of like screaming into the void.
I don't like Arrow to the Knee. Do you know the one I liked recently was the one about Soldier 76 being like your dad or your grandpa?
That was great. That was adorable.
Yeah, and like Andy Kelly tweeted one that was like, "Oh, please pray for my dad. He's out gone crazy or something." It was just a picture, so I can't remember. But it was all that stuff makes me laugh.
Fun.
All right, let's grab another one. Excuse me. There's too many of you guys, and I like you all too much. Hasmuffins asks, so I asked this of the UK podcast, but what's the biggest secret/trick you have found in a game without looking it up?
Oh, gosh.
Ooh. Secret/trick. That's interesting because there's not a whole lot of like hidden stuff like codes anymore, I feel like.
I don't feel like I've ever been the one to discover it either.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been that clever.
I can't remember a specific moment because it's all just a wash now. I've thought about Dark Souls too much at this point. But when I was reviewing Dark Souls 3, it was before it was on online. There was like no online functionality. So all of the secret stuff and all the passages and bosses weren't really marked at all. Like if you play now, there's messages on the floor, like 40 of them in front of like an invisible wall. And you're like, okay, like, that's really cool. So I remember that, like playing a Dark Souls game for the first time offline. Any secret you find just feels super substantial. Oh, I remember the untended graves in Dark Souls 3. Do you remember that area?
Yeah.
Finding that on my own, it wasn't like super hidden because there's this whole like area after a boss that kind of dead ends, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna slash the walls. You've been trained at that point, but I just remember that area being like a big holy shit for me. Yeah.
This isn't a secret, but trick-wise, there were, since I did bring it up, Minecraft stuff, like, it always felt really, really rewarding to, like, make something with redstone stuff and, like, make a contraption that I know has been, like, made a billion times online, and there's, like, explicit tutorials for how to make, like, a door or a drawbridge or something like that. It always felt like I would try to complete those things on myself. Like I made in one point in Minecraft when they added command blocks, which let you do like weirder things like teleporting players and stuff. I managed to make like a portal style or like what's the word, like non-Euclidean, you know, what's that game? The really weird puzzle game.
Oh,
The Witness?
Shit.
No, in something. Anyway, I made a level where you would be like walking through a hallway in I'm sorry, you'd be walking through a hallway in Minecraft and like it would teleport you to an identical hallway somewhere else without you noticing, so that if you turned around, you'd be in a different place and you like wouldn't notice that you had gotten to that place. And then I looked it up and like there were a billion tutorials for it, but I felt like I had like a moment where I was like, yeah, I did this thing that was pretty cool.
A friend of mine when I was about I don't know how old, maybe like young, maybe like before secondary school, we were playing Rambo on the Commodore 64, which was a kind of top-down sort of Ikari Warriors style game, and we saw behind a bush, just for like a few frames, like a flash of a green Rambo who looked exactly like us but was green, and we were like, whoa, there's another Rambo, and we spent like the entirety of the rest of the day trying to find the green Rambo again. It was just a fucking visual glitch. There was no green Rambo.
Antichamber.
Antichamber.
Yeah, we had a couple subscribers too. It's
love
okay.
that game.
You all got it at the same time.
feels good to get out.
All right, so JBJ Blaze with a longer question
here we
asks, but our longest subscriber asks, have some self-reflection after yesterday's co-optional podcast where they talked about Steam Direct and how small of a percentage Steam users actually complete their games. How many out of your games have you guys completed, and what's the fastest time from start day to end day you finished a game in? For me, it's starting Arkham City on December 27th, 2011, finishing it New Year's Day, 2012. So I guess you're meaning like bigger games in that case, because there are small games, right, that you can beat in an hour. Bigger games probably for me would be Shadow of the Colossus, which I sat down and I beat in a day. That or Skies of Arcadia Legends, which I also sat down and beat in a weekend, and that game is way too long to have beaten in a weekend, so yeah.
I beat the Dragon Age Origins in like a week or something, just going home after work at my shitty IT job at a college, and just from like 5 until 2 in the morning playing that game nonstop as a dwarf, just running around the deep roads.
But this is a good question. Like, do you guys complete games? Because it's not something to be ashamed about. Like only like 50% of players get to the halfway mark of a game, and only like 5% beat it usually.
I had a thing for quite a while where I would get to right before the final boss, and you'd know it was the final boss because you could either tell from the arc of the game or you'd read about it. Like I did this with Metal Gear 5. I got right to the end and then just put it down because like I knew what was going to happen. I was going to have to do a boss fight and then there'd be a cutscene, but I'd got all the items and stuff, and I'd kind of my character was how I wanted it to be, and I would just stop. And it was a weird. I can't even really explain why, because it feels like a personality flaw on my part rather than any sort of complaint about the game design I can make. But I talked as well years and years ago to the guys who made Burnout, and they were saying like, the percentage of people who see the final kind of content you make is like tiny. It's less than like 1% of the player base. So like he was discussing it, I think, at the time when we were talking about like whether you should front load games like you're making a pop album and put the singles at the front rather than at the end, because they're much more likely to get listened to.
Stuff. I think of the games I buy, we're in a weird position because we just get codes, for a lot of games that we probably won't finish. We're going to check out and write about. But of the games I deliberately buy, I try to finish all of them, if they can be finished.
That's noble.
I'm fairly picky, and like maybe another personality type where I just hate leaving things unfinished. Like, it just bothers me not seeing something through.
I don't mind leaving them, but I think I go like I'm like all or nothing. Like with the most recent Deus Ex, I've tried to start that like 3 times. Same as Stellaris, I tried it 3 times, and each time I just bounce off it. And again, it's like either I can't focus my attention, or something aesthetically displeases me, or I'm just not into a particular mechanic, and then I'll bounce off the game, and that'll be that. And I'll just like James says, we have the luxury of being able to do that because we haven't necessarily put down $60 for it or whatever. But if a game, like, once it has its hooks in, and with Witcher it took me, I think I bounced off Witcher first time, and then second time around I got to the bloody Baron quest like 4 or 5 hours in or whatever, and then once the hooks are in, I'll see it. Not only will I see it to the end, I'll collect all the gear, I'll do every side quest, unless it's a Ubisoft game, because fuck that. No. It's too much.
I generally, if I finish a game, or if I set my mind to it, I will finish a game. But I think I'm one of those guys. I think I'm probably about average in terms of like I don't complete a lot of the games I play, and I just kind of play them till I enjoy them, and then I don't want to like force myself to not enjoy something while I'm just for the sake of like getting a tick box or something like that. I try to beat stuff. I never will put down a game because I'm like, I'm just like, I'll never put down a game and be like, I don't want to finish this. I'll just like drift on to other things or just drift away from that. Like it kind of depends, but I think I probably beat maybe about half the games that I play.
The thing I found more, I wouldn't say troubling, but like weird recently is obviously playing like Hearthstone and Elder Scrolls and Division. Each of those had like daily things I felt like I had to complete, like quests and missions with rewards. Like Division, there's a weekly one, so you have to grind through. And I found like almost like I was having to set like routines to get it all done, and it got to the point of like a second job, like a job I was enjoying, but I don't know.
Checkboxes, man.
The grind.
Wait till Destiny 2 comes out.
2,000 hours. That's how long it takes. There were a couple questions about Star Wars: The Old Republic. What are your thoughts on Star Wars: The Old Republic? I don't think anybody of us play it here, so we won't be able to talk about that, unfortunately. Question from new subscriber Benf. And Max Ursa asks a similar question of, played Star Wars: The Old Republic at release, but didn't feel it at the time, just got back into it, and I'm really enjoying the Star Wars feels to the point where I've put money into it again. What games have you tried again after a while and got back into deep? Which is a good question. I think one of those for me was XCOM. The original XCOM, that is, not XCOM 2. I got about like 5 or 6 hours into the first XCOM, and I was like, cool, and then stopped. And then there was a period, maybe like 6 to 8 months later, where I picked XCOM up again and like played it straight through, right? Like it consumed me at that point, where it had kind of not really bounced off, just like, you know, I drifted away from again. So yeah.
I'm a broken record here, but Dark Souls. When the very first time I played Dark Souls, I was like, fuck this shit. Everyone's being pretentious and being, you know, like, it's just hardcore gamer nonsense. I was the person like, my target demographic of who I want to like preach to now.
You're like Evan. What's all this rolling?
Yeah, basically. But now I've seen the light and the dark, and my soul is fulfilled.
Yeah, I would say Division actually, because I completely rejected that at launch. I thought it was terrible, and I guess I was playing Destiny at the time, so I just thought it was a bad version of Destiny. But then when I came back to it, which was not until patch 1.5, and I think 1.4 had been one of the ones that had really fixed a lot of stuff. Yeah. So I joined patch 1.5, stuck around through 1.6, and now I'm out. But yeah, I had completely different experiences with it.
All right, guys, that's actually all the time we have for questions today. Sorry if I couldn't get to yours, but thank you very much to all the subs that did send in questions and non-subs. We will be back, as we always are, next week, 1 p.m. Wednesday Pacific time, right here at twitch.tv/PCGamer. You can always listen to the audio of the show at PCGamer.com/podcast if you missed it live or missed any bit of it or want to just hear our charming voices again. You can also watch the show in video form at youtube.com/PCGamer and join us in a little conversation afterwards at discord.gg/PCGamer. So we appreciate you all for being here. Thank you all to our new subs and returning. Thank you, James and Tim. We will see you guys next week.